We are the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association.
We are the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association.
Business in Pennsylvania.
And business in Pennsylvania is our business.
It's less than 2 weeks now until that June 30th deadline. I know that deadline means a lot to you. The first budgets that you signed were on time, and you always said that meant something to you. Senator Pileggi, the Senate Majority Leader, said yesterday it doesn't look like June 30th is going to happen. What are your prospects for seeing a budget on your desk?
Well, I don't know. 1? I mean, we have been talking about it. Our staffs have been meeting quite a bit, and you see what the picture is, and I have said, you have to. One of the drivers of the cost of the budget, not only just to the state of Pennsylvania, but to all 500 school districts, is the issue of pensions. And we have to begin the process. There's no silver bullet to fix this, but we have to begin the process. And I am insistent that we get some pension reform.
Are you insistent that happens this month before the budget gets to your desk?
Well, I am in this way. I know that they're looking to increase revenue somehow, not in areas that I'm not particularly keen on doing. So, it seems to me that you should address what the drivers of the cost to the pension are before you deal with how do you get revenues into that. And one of the drivers of the cost of the budget is pension. What we're talking about isn't nearly as much as I wanted a year ago, but we couldn't get anybody in the legislature, Republican or Democrat, to step up to the plate and say we need to take this head on. So I've come to the philosophy that we'll start bounding our head against the wall and start cracking it by one step at a time. And the step that's out there right now, what's called the Tobash Amendment, is a good first step. It's not a final step if you want to fix this problem, and that's the issue. I'm here trying to say what is going to be the problem for Pennsylvania 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 10, 15, 20 years from now. It's going to be much worse if we don't deal with the pension system. Because of the way the pension system was set up in the past, because of decisions that were made by legislatures 15 years ago or 14 years ago, they compounded the problem. And it's very difficult to go back and capture that and go back to that point before that. I haven't found a legislature that's willing to do that. But we have to start dealing with it. Otherwise, we're going to continue to pay more and more and more into the budget. Right now, in 17-18, we already know if we do nothing, $3.3 billion of the budget is going to go to the pension system. That's money that if we would control it, if we would start fixing it, that's money that could be used in other areas besides just going to the pension, for instance, in education. Or how about helping those who can't help themselves, the people with physical and intellectual disabilities, that waiting list. We actually have a waiting list for people like that. And I seem to see people more concerned about continuing a system that is just the Pac-Man of the budget, as I've called it in the past, as compared to how do we help those individuals who can't take care of themselves. It's a frustrating position for me to be in.
The budget gap right now is looking to be about $1.5 billion. Some are putting it as high as approaching $2 billion.
I've never heard more than 1.5.
Okay.
I've seen the media say, approaching $2 billion. It's everything I have seen in the last 2 months. It's 1.4, 1.5. So it would help if they had some accuracy in those, and because that exaggeration creates either greater anxiety, and there's enough anxiety out there in the world to begin with.
But with that budget gap, I know one of the revenue generators that you've been against from day one is an extraction tax on gas drilling. Is that now an eventuality?
I think I've answered your question for you already. No, number one, let's talk about how we got to this issue. Did we underestimate revenue coming in, as many states did, because of a number of different factors? Yes. Personal income tax didn't come in April the way a lot of people thought it would at the same levels. Business taxes didn't come in at the same levels because of changes in the federal law in 2013 that people in business and personal took advantage of in 2012 and were able to change their tax structure around a little bit. But also, let's be frank, the federal government has cut us when it comes to the FMAP process. The cost of the woodwork in the expansion is starting to surface. So that's that, and the fact that we did not prevail, the Attorney General did not prevail in litigation over the tobacco settlement, is about $700 to $800 million shortfall right there. So the revenue shortfall is a portion of that, but the lack of revenue coming from the federal government and from this tobacco settlement is even more than, I think, more than half of that number.
And for the record, the IFO figure was $1.44 billion.
Thank
so
you.
we'll
Thank
put
you
that
for
out there
accuracy.
as really the only true factual study of the current budget gap. But I'll end the budget talk with just one more question: is what's happening right now? You mentioned the talks. Everything happens behind closed doors at this stage in the process down there. Can you kind of shed a little light on that?
Well,
What's happening?
I think I should answer the rest of the other question because that'll combine it. What's happening is there are discussions going on. The House gave a copy of what a bare bones, no increase budget looks like. It's not saying that's where we're going.
It's the shell,
but
is what they call it.
What happens is the leaders of the caucuses and the staff, they're working with the budget for a couple months, and the members don't get to see it. Well, now the members have gotten to see it, and does that shape their voting patterns at all? On other issues. And as you know, I have said I'm looking for this pension reform because not only does it help us, it helps the school districts by about $130 million across the 500 school districts of Pennsylvania. And one of the reasons that you see school districts talking about increasing their budget and having to raise income tax, there's three factors driving that. It's salaries, it's benefits, and it's the pension issue. So if you want to help across the entire board, starting with the pension, let's open the door. Not completely wide, let's just crack it open, is the process.
Well, we're lining up for an eventful couple of weeks coming up.
Well,
here,
as I've said, I said it last year, and I'll say it again this year, I have no plans for July 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I can keep going.
You can stay in town.
Yep.